Last week I was in Kansas City from Friday to Sunday. I drove down Friday morning, spent the day there, spent the night, had a wedding, 11-hour wedding on Saturday, and then Sunday I did two engagement shoots, and it was quite a bit. It was quite a bit. I'm not gonna lie. I was recovering for several days, but it's okay. Which is kind of one of the reasons why we're gonna be talking about this subject today, because I did just do a traveling wedding, and I actually had someone contact me last night or the night before. I think it was last night. They contacted me, and they are like 9 hours away from here. I think the wedding was going to be in India or something. So, I thought this would be a subject matter that might be helpful to some of you if you are in the early planning stages and you're still looking to hire vendors and whatnot. So, we are talking about hiring vendors from outside of your area. So again, I live in Fayetteville, Arkansas. I know some of you. We've got people in this group from all over the country. A lot of you are from Arkansas. A lot of you from Missouri. A lot of you from Oklahoma. We've got people all over. So we're just gonna be talking about whether or not it's a good idea to hire people from outside of where you're living, or if you should just focus solely on the people within your city or your area. And then, at the end of this, you can kind of decide whether that's something you want to do or if it's something that's not a good idea. And, honestly, I don't know. It depends on your situation. And I'm just going to tell you my honest opinion on it, and you can decide whether that's a route you want to go or not. As always, if you have questions, feel free to ask them, and I will try and get to them as we are going. All right. So again, we are talking about hiring vendors outside of your area. And, first of all, what does that even mean? What does that mean? And again, you're going to have to decide what that definition is. Here's kind of how I view it. The vendor has to travel and doesn't live in your area, and that could be 2 hours away. That could be 3 hours away. The farthest I've traveled is to Colorado, and I couldn't drive that. I had to get on a plane for that because it would have taken forever to drive there. But the way that I would define it is maybe like it'd be very difficult for them to come to your wedding, perform, and then get home in the same day. That would be kind of travel. So most likely they're going to be spending the night. I would also suggest, when you're doing this, to ask the vendors, because people have different definitions. Some vendors will charge you a travel fee if it's over an hour. Some people it's 2 hours. Some people may not do a travel fee at all. I don't know. So I'm just kind of throwing out a broad definition of what that means. For me, for example, if it's within an hour, that's not very difficult for me to get there, do the stuff, and I can even come home that same night. An hour is not very far at all for me, but when we're talking about like going to St. Louis, where it's a 5.5 hour drive, that's a lot. I mean, that's definitely what I would call a traveling wedding. Or like I said, a few weekends ago, I went to Kansas City, which is roughly a 3.5 hour drive there. Definitely would have been difficult to drive up on Saturday, shoot the wedding, and then drive home. That would have been crazy. The other part of the definition is if it's not a place they visit frequently. So, I mean, if they're traveling there every other week anyway, if they already have like a house there or something, then I wouldn't really consider that a traveling wedding for them. Because, I mean, they know the area. They're used to going there. It's normal. That's normal for them. It's not a big deal. All right. So now that we've kind of defined what that means, let's talk about the good stuff. The good stuff that comes with hiring someone from outside of your area. One of the biggest things, guys, is we're just going to talk about options. I mean, there are a good amount of options probably in your city, and that'll vary depending on your city. If you're in a small city, you may not have many options at all. If you're in a giant city, you may already have all the options you want. But when you expand that area, you're allowing yourself more options. So think about it this way. If you guys can remember before Amazon was a big thing, so say you wanted to buy a toothbrush. I don't know, that's the first thing that came in my head, a toothbrush. You would be limited to what you could find like at Walmart or Walgreens or I don't know, whatever other store sell toothbrushes. But when you expand, Amazon lets us basically shop over the entire country, the over world, whatever. Now, if you go to Amazon and type toothbrushes, you're going to have 5,000 options for toothbrushes. So you're not stuck with what you find at your local Walmart. You can now have a toothbrush that fits who you are and your personality. You could, that'd be a funny thing to do. I'm gonna have to look that up later in Amazon. Just see if I can find a toothbrush that is exactly who I am and is I don't know. I don't even know what that would mean. So, with all those options, some of the good things about having so many options, you don't have to worry about everyone already being booked. I mean, I can't tell you how many people I've already turned away for October 23rd of this year. It was booked a year and a half ago, and it seems like it's a really popular date this year. A lot of people are asking me about it. So you don't have to worry about striking out with as many vendors because you have much more options, which I've had people say that before. We just keep searching and we can't find anyone. We just can't find anyone. Everyone's already booked. This sucks. I can't find a single person who's not booked on that date. So when you have more options, you don't have to worry about that. The bigger, better thing that I think is really awesome is you can find the people that are exactly what you want. Going back to the toothbrush, you're not having to settle for this lime green toothbrush because that's all they had. You can go out and find the vendors that are exactly what you want because there's so many more options. So what they offer. So if you wanted a DJ that brought a smoke machine and had his own lights and blah, 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 you can find a DJ that does that. Or if you're looking for a certain style, if you are looking for someone that makes cakes that are completely organic and GMO and gluten-free, you can find the person that does exactly that and does a good job of it. If you are looking for a certain personality, and I preach that a lot, find vendors that you love to be around, you love talking to, you love hanging out with. You can find the perfect person for you. That's the good thing about expanding your search. Now, this is actually, people probably think this is contradictory, but you could actually save money. And I know this is not going to be for every situation, but there are some situations where you could actually save money hiring someone outside of your area. So the first thing is we're talking about those options. So if you're looking within your city and everybody is just out of your price range, when you expand that search, you're going to be able to find someone that fits into your price range, and you can probably find someone that you actually like as well. So that's awesome. That's good. You don't want to settle, and you don't want to have to spend way more than what you're wanting to. Now, here's the interesting situation. We all know that things cost different amounts in different cities. The bigger cities are going to be usually more expensive. The cost of living is going to be a lot higher. So if you are in one of those big cities, when you start doing research, you're going to find that everything's expensive. If you expand your search beyond your city, you can find someone that's living in a smaller city that has a lower cost of living, so they don't have to charge as much, or they don't charge as much. I don't know. So for example, if I don't know what the average cost of a wedding photographer is in New York City, but I imagine it's probably pretty high. My guess, the average would probably be $5,000. That's my guess. So if you're going to find someone in New York City, you're going to be paying roughly around $5,000. But if you were to bring in someone from a different city, a different location, the average cost is going to be different. So, for example, in my area, I want to say the average wedding photographer might be $2,000, $2,500, somewhere in that range. So that's like half the cost, right? So if you were to bring in someone from Arkansas up to a New York City wedding, you could be saving money because they're not going to charge you as much as someone who lives in New York City and has to have that extra $2,500. Now, this last one, I don't know. I don't think this is really a great thing. This is not, I wouldn't do this. This is not my thing, but I wanted to point this out because I have heard people say this before. So if you're bringing someone from out of your area, it could be a form of status or, like bragging, however you want to say it. So you're like, oh, did you know that Susie flew in her DJ from California and her DJ was ranked top 10 in the country, blah, 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 blah. Again, I don't believe in doing that. I don't think that's a great thing to do. But, if you want to use that as like a way to make yourself sound important or whatever, then go for it. You can make people feel like you did something extra special. Now, let's talk about the other side of this, the cons of using someone outside of your area. You will not be supporting local business. So your money that you're paying the vendors will be going somewhere else, right? So they're not people that live in your community. They're not people that are contributing to your community through taxes or through just their general life, I guess. So you would be supporting someone who lives somewhere else. Not a bad thing, but, a lot of people are always pushing support your local business. But, it's different than, we're not talking about a giant corporation. This would still probably be a smaller business. They just wouldn't be in your city. It also can make decision-making extremely difficult. I don't remember what it's called, option fatigue, maybe. I don't remember. But there's like a study done that when you have too many options, it can become extremely overwhelming. So again, going back to our toothbrush thing, like when you're scrolling through 50 pages of toothbrushes, after a while you're gonna be like, I don't know what to choose. This is so difficult. There's so many toothbrushes out there. I don't know which one I'm gonna go with, and when you pick one, you may be like, oh, you have that regret. You're like, was this the right one, or was the perfect toothbrush out on the next page and I just missed it? So that could happen with your vendors, it just becomes like this very overwhelming thing where you're looking through 500 different venues or florists or whatever, and you just don't know what to choose. It makes it too difficult. And then, you're still not happy even when you do make a decision because there's that thought that there might be something else still out there that you're missing out on. I would say distance is probably the biggest struggle with this. It's harder. I guess people aren't really meeting face to face like they used to. I still like to do it because, I usually start off with a phone call and then maybe a Zoom call, but I really like getting people in person so I can take an album. Like, I don't have an album in my hand, but I can take a physical album and hand it to them so they can look at it, they can feel it, they can see the quality. So same thing like you're talking about if you're trying to hire a baker, right? Someone to make your cake. Zoom is good, but you can't taste a cake through Zoom. Dresses, you can look at pretty dresses, but you can't try it on through Zoom. So that in-person part can be kind of difficult with the distance thing. Zoom helps to a degree, but there's still some things you'll be missing out on being to actually physically meet someone. Other things, depending on how far away you are and the vendor, you may be paying for them to travel or even stay the night. For example, my Casey wedding, they got me a hotel room on Saturday night. So, I mean, not a giant fee. I don't think I charged them anything for traveling. So, but they did have to do the room. So that was an extra expense. There are also concerns with travel. Like before I left, I put some more oil in my vehicle. I made sure all my tires were aired up because, something could happen in that travel time. If you're doing airplane stuff, flights get delayed, you miss flights, weather issues, whatever. And, that's kind of scary to think that an important part of your wedding isn't able to make it because of those things. So that can be a little bit scary. Another con is the person doesn't know the area as well as a local person. So as far as like driving directions, locations, where things are, how to get to places, where to park, things of that nature. They also don't know the other vendors, so they may not have that connection with them. They may not have ever worked with them before. I'm trying to think if there were any other things without that. But yeah, just not having that experience in the area like someone who lives there would. Now, with all that said, is this right for you? I don't know. I think it really will vary depending on the person to person and situation to situation. Like I was saying, like the person that contacted me last night and wanting me to travel 9 hours, that's probably not going to happen. Okay. I mean, that's pretty far and, that would be pretty expensive on their part. Unless she just really loves my work and loves who I am, it's probably not going to happen. But me traveling 3 hours is not a big deal, and that's much easier situation to pull off. What I would suggest you do is start with local. See if you can find exactly what you need in your area. I mean, if you find everything you need and everyone you love is there, then why even start looking other places? And the only thing I would say, unless you already have someone in mind that you already kind of knew about. For example, I have people, I have bridesmaids that were in a wedding that I worked, and, they may already know about me and they already may be thinking about hiring me, and I may not be in their area. For example, there's a bridesmaid I know from a wedding, I want to say it was like 4 years ago. And she's like, as soon as I find that guy, you're the man. And she's living in Alaska right now. So I imagine hopefully she'll come back closer when she does decide to get married. But, if I have to travel to Alaska, that's okay as well. But yeah, so if you can't find everybody within your area, then you can start expanding your search and looking for what you're missing. But I really would try to focus on just the things that are super duper important to you. Like I wouldn't try to find every single vendor in that expanded area. Like we said, the cake, florist, some of those things, those don't travel 4 or 5 hours very well. But, like a DJ or photographer, videographer, wedding coordinator, that's not as hard to pull off. Those are people that are relatively easy to have travel to you and do that. But yeah, start local, see what you can do. Then you might expand the search. But only if it's really important to you. I mean, if you don't care that much about your DJ and you found someone that's decent, then I wouldn't go expanding the search. But like, if photography is like your number one priority and you can't find someone you like, then expand it. If the DJ is your number one priority, you can't find someone, expand it. But yeah, it is definitely something to look into. I am going to be traveling a ton this year and next year. Right now, my main cities are St. Louis and Kansas City. I've got at least one in Oklahoma. And I think I'm traveling around the Little Rock area at some point as well for another wedding. So I'm sticking still relatively close to where I am, 5.5 hours kind of being that maximum distance. But I'm excited. Let me get off my screen here. Back to me. Like I said, it may not be for everyone, but it definitely does open up some options, and it might make your life a little easier being able to be like, okay, I found exactly who I want, and they're wonderful, they're perfect. I couldn't find anyone like this around here. But again, there's always those trade-offs. You may have to pay them to travel. You have to make sure they get there. I don't know. So with all that said, I don't know what's right for you guys, but it's something that you need to consider. You need to think about the pros and cons of it. And, it may be something you didn't even consider, but now it's something that could really help you out if it is a struggle. Well, that is it for me today. I will be coming back next week with another video, and I'm trying to think. I do not have a topic yet in mind, so if you want to suggest a topic, I would love to have suggestions. I'm always looking for things to help you guys. If you have other questions, other things you're struggling with, if you have an opinion on what we just talked about, anything. I would love to have you guys interacting and giving me your thoughts on things, and I'm here to help you as always. So with that, enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. And it is almost spring break. See you guys.